Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ray Gibbs. I'm the non-executive chairman of AEH Innovative Hydrogel, which is a novel hydrogel-based material and product which Beanish, who's the founder and owner of the company, will actually explain more as we go through. Before we get into that, I just want to set the scene really, because the whole topic is around the science of hydrogel, the solving of global challenges, particularly of water shortages, which is massive around the whole world today. And we called this one vertical farm at a time, because that's where we are in part, in vertical farming. Plus also we are talking of improving soil. But before I do that, let's set the scene with some horrible statistics. In the agricultural industry, one of the largest in the world, if not the largest in the world, accounts for 11% of CO2. COVID had a massive impact on exposing the flaws of the supply chain in the United Kingdom and around the world, where food miles became a big problem. And now everyone's talking about food security, being able to grow in country, and looking at sustainability as a means of looking after one's own produce base. So here are some facts for you all to just think about what is in effect happening. Approximately 1.6 billion tons of food is wasted per annum. If you actually looked at what that is, it's 28% of all the agricultural land used, which is equivalent of an area the size of America, of India and Egypt. How big is that? The problem with the food wastage is 25% of our precious fresh water is used to make all those foods, and they're all wasted. And those wasted foods end up in landfill, often creating methane, which is even more potent than CO2, 21 times worse. So we've got that issue. On top of that, we've got the rather interesting and bizarre conundrum that around the world today, according to the United Nations, 920 million people go hungry. So not only are we wasting food, wasting water, but we're actually also creating, where we can't grow the stuff, we're having a situation where there is a lot of individuals who go hungry. Add to that the population explosion over the next 30 years, which is going to be 35% more. So think of that in terms of a population explosion of China today, and 2 times America, 2 billion plus people, adding to an already crushed situation of growing food to feed the world. So agriculture as an industry uses 70% of all of the fresh water that we look at and control in the world today. Much of that washes off the land. What we have is a capability to stop some of that happening with an improvement of the soil, particularly in carbon, in non-carbon based land, and also to stop the washing of nitrates and other pesticides into an already clouded watercourse. So to my left is Dr. Beanish Sadiq. She's invented a food grade polymer, and I want to introduce you because what we need to do is talk about what we've done in technology to actually improve the ability to grow produce sensibly, economically, and using that word that everyone wants to talk about, sustainability. So I'm going to hand over to Beanish, and she's going to explain a little bit about the technology. Beanish.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray, for introducing about myself. So basically, if I don't know how many of you are aware of indoor farming. So have you heard about indoor farming? Okay, some of them, they are just saying no. So indoor farming, for example, if you're from London, just to give you example, it's so expensive to have space to grow your own leafy greens, vegetables, tomatoes, or anything. So then the solution, the modern solution to tackle this issue is indoor farming. So basically in indoor farming, you don't need any soil to grow plants. So for example, just to give you, if you look at this piece of gel, so this is hydrogel. So hydrogel, or you can say artificial soil. Have you heard about hydrogel? Okay. So some of them they learned, but so basically, what are hydrogels? They are polymers. So polymers, they can be natural polymers or synthetic polymers. But if you use synthetic polymer, they're not good for environment. So our is based on 100% hydrogen. So how it works? So basically, in indoor farming, usually you need to use a growing medium, although you are not using soil, but there are still growing medium. For example, peat. So peat is a term. So first time I heard about peat, if I be honest with you, when I was a PhD student. So I used to read news like there are regulation that will come in near future, and then government will ban using peat. So peat basically, it comes from peatland. So when it's in soil, it stores carbon into the soil and reduce the carbon dioxide emission or other greenhouse gas emission. But when you extract it from soil to grow plants indoor, then it causes greenhouse gas emission. So I thought my background was more about medical application, but then I was working with hydrogel to grow cells. So then I just thought, why not? If we can grow human cells, so say in the same way, we can use the same gel to grow plants. And then now we have developed this hydrogel, which is 100% biodegradable. And the most important aspect of this hydrogel is once you are done using in indoor farming, for example, you use leafy greens. Just to give you one example, if you are growing spinach, so usually in UK you can just grow for 26 weeks, but the requirement are for 52 weeks. But you can't grow for more than that. So you can literally just put spinach seeds on it, and then just it will grow inside it. So once you are done with growing spinach, then you use the same substrate in soil, and when you add in soil, it will increase the natural soil carbon and nitrogen content of the soil.
Beanish, can you explain why you're replacing peat? What's happening to the world in terms of getting rid of peat and banning it? Because it's an important point, isn't it?
Yes. So if you ban peat, for example, then what will happen? Most growers, they won't be able to grow leafy greens in indoor farming. And obviously, for example, just to give you example of UK and UAE, they don't have enough soil to grow their crops in outdoor farming. So if you ban peat, so then there is no alternative growing medium. So it means loss of crops like leafy greens or anything you see in retail or market. For example, when you go to Tesco, Waitrose, so probably they won't be there. So at that point, probably spinach will be more expensive than gold. So that's why.
So Beanish, all of what you consumed from November through to March, April comes from Spain, Portugal. It's transshipped across food miles, CO2 emissions, and all those things. We're looking to stop that by adding sustainable media, which is what the retailers and the consumer wants, with a view to making sure that it can actually produce goods in the country that it's made in, so that it can be used and used by the consumer without having to take it from another country. Is that right?
Yes, so that's, I agree with that. So for example, there is a term we use. So if food comes from Manchester and there are store in Manchester, so if it came from Manchester, then there is less food mileage. It means ultimately less carbon dioxide emissions or any other greenhouse gas emission. But if it comes from Spain, for example, then it will be like more mileage, food mileage, and transportation. It's not only like the one thing is about sustainability, the other thing is cost. For example, if it comes from Spain, it will be more expensive. But if you grow within Manchester or London, then it will be more cheaper And so basically you are getting two in one benefit, one sustainability and then a
So
price.
the other thing is the retailer community is looking to talk about sustainability, local produce, keeping it in the United Kingdom or wherever it happens to be, and actually providing those goods, those leafy greens, the rocket, spinach, basil, whatever, into the community at a lower cost or a cost that's equivalent. We all talk about cost of living at the moment. It's a big issue, and we're just trying to address that sort of thing as well. I'd like to move on and talk about Innovate UK because that kick-started our business, didn't it?
Yes. So, for example, when I started this business, I was just a PhD student. So, I have no source of money. But obviously, I was studying at University of Manchester, so I got seed funding from them. And then Ray has joined our company, so he's with our company since 2019. So if you want, the good thing about UK is if you want to innovate, if you want to invent something and your idea is really good, then you get funding from, you apply your grant and then you get money from them. So we won 1 million grant from Innovate UK. That enabled me to hire more people in our team. So now, for example, we are 15 people in our team and we are setting up manufacturing facility in Birmingham with a vision that we will supply this sustainable hydrogel substrate not only in UK but all around the world. So probably just to mention, at the moment we are working with growers all around the world because for them, all of them, the key is sustainability because now everyone understands. Although when we say we are eating lettuce, herbs and think it's more healthy, but now the key for grower is when they are growing, is it sustainable? The medium they are using to grow is sustainable or not. So we are helping them to achieve their goals to use more sustainable growing media.
So what we're doing is adding fantastic technology, science, adding a number of different materials together, mixing them very cleverly, and then producing a hydrogel. And what's magic about that hydrogel is the water content and the nutrient content. Do you want to explain a bit about that, Beanish?
That's a good question. So basically, just imagine. So if you are looking at this substrate, so if you look, it's around 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter. So there is one grower in UK. They are not really large scale grower. They use 100 million cubes each year to produce leafy greens. Well, so if we transport this material, so it is quite bulky. So what we do when it's in dry form, so literally it's just like a dot. So I will say like 0.25 millimeter dot. So you need to put in water and it will expand. So for example, this holds more than 95% of water and it has enough natural nutrient to provide at least for 7 days. Plants don't need any other nutrients or extra nutrients. So it has natural carbon, nitrogen in it.
So the good thing about that is from a vertical farming perspective, there is less requirement to keep testing pH levels and other activities. But I'd like you to just explain a little bit about this soil improver and the Christmas tree experiment that we did.
Oh, that's a good example. So, for example, this hydrogel is usually the idea was like we will use in more indoor farming, but it also has application in outdoor farming. So there is a company in York. Basically, their CEO he came to me and he said like. Usually in summertime, what is happening? Most of their Christmas tree they don't survive because of hot weather. So we just thought, okay, why not try our hydrogel? So basically, in last summer, in July, so they have used our gel substrate instead of soil in their pot. And just 1 month ago, the owner of the farm he sent me the video. 70% of his crop were dead, and the only plants who were really fresh and healthy that were in our gel substrate. So he is so impressed with the technology. So now he will be our first potential customer. To him we will supply our gel substrate. So what happened basically, because this gel substrate has water, so it hold water in its structure. So in traditional agriculture, for example, I'm from Pakistan. So just to give you example, when farmers they irrigate the crops, 60 to 70% of water get wasted. Either it run off or it just like evaporate. But if you put this gel into soil, then what will happen? If it's rain and when they irrigate, then this gel will hold water in it, so there won't be water won't run off. And when plant will needed it, so for example if it's hot summer, for example in UK temperature was quite high in July, so it was around 28 29 degrees Celsius. So this gel hold water in its structure, so when weather is really hot it release to the plant, so it prevent, so then plants have enough moisture so they don't die. So this is what happened with the Christmas tree. So now I mean
That's a real example of something where technology has helped improve agriculture today in a real world example. And there are others. And we shouldn't just look at impoverished soil in the third, what I call the third world. There are some really bad drought areas beginning to be in Kent. We're talking about putting a reverse osmosis water plant in Kent to try and feed the water plant. But think of California, which is dry, absolutely dry. The gel itself will work well in that respect. So the key things for us is, can we help everyone around the world improve? We don't want everyone to just throw nitrates and other pesticides on the land. Why? Because they get washed off. Where do they go? The watercourse. What does the watercourse want? It needs cleaning up. So we're trying to avoid that issue. That's why we're looking to save the global waters challenge that we have today. So what about some of the other things we're doing being issue? We've got rocket growing. Yeah.
So with this substrate, basically we have already tested around 28 types of leafy greens. We are also working with growers who are growing strawberry and then berries. So with strawberries, for example, what is happening, usually the growing medium is, so there is a bag. So if you are growing 8 strawberry plants, so there is a bag which has 17 liter of cocoa coir. And where this cocoa coir comes from, so mostly it comes from India or Sri Lanka. So when COVID hits during the pandemic, so there was a supply chain issue for growers because there was not enough cocoa coir was available, and at the same time obviously the need for cocoa coir, if you are using it as a growing medium, is way higher than the coconut trees. For example, we can't chop all coconut trees to use it as a growing medium. And secondly, it has like contamination issue. So what we are doing, we are also preparing this gel bag to replace cocoa coir. And then when they are using this bag for a bag of hydrogel, you can save like around 20% water because these hold moisture in it. So we have success. We are now in our lab, for example, we have successfully harvested strawberries and other soft fruits. But now we are taking this product into like commercial trials. So we are trialing with world largest berry growers. So they have initial results have shown that our gel is performing.
So that berry grower, which is in Kent, I can't name names for obvious reasons, has a throughput of about 10,000 strawberries, 10,000 tons of strawberries every year. And we're going to save the need for cocoa coir from Sri Lanka and India by replacing it with our hydrogel. So it's just another example of the sorts of things that we're doing today. And there's loads of trials that you're doing. Vertical farming is the newest flavor. Everyone wants internal growing mediums to be able to actually avoid the vagaries of frost, water damage, and other activities. What about talking in terms of some of the other things we're doing, Beanish, in some of the we've got hydroponic systems with lettuce
Yes.
down in Colchester.
Yes, so basically, I think it's another example of indoor farming or greenhouses. So I'm not sure how when you travel. For example, today I came from Birmingham to London. So when I was on my way back, so I have saw lots of polytunnels, and then in those polytunnels, basically, what growers or farmers they do, so they have a deep hydroponic water system. So what is deep hydroponic system? So it's like there is a container. So I'll just give you example in a simpler way. So just imagine I'll just go with this bowl of water. So this container have like nutrients and minerals to grow that are enough to supply. So and on top of that, we just put like substrate. You grow and then roots start growing up, and they will take nutrient and water from there. So we are working with all those hydroponic grower as well. So for example, if you want to see the bad example, you can visit our stand, and then you'll see how they are growing it.
And that hydroponic grower does, I think it's 50 million lettuces, mainly for the consumer industry in a company that is one of the largest producers of sandwiches in the country. So there's plenty of opportunity to go for. There's plenty of other things that we're doing as well. We're looking, and it might seem, how are we doing all this? Well, Innovate helps us to make that happen. We're raising money as well. There's a lot of interest in vertical farming, a lot of interest in self-sustainability, taking product to where the demand is. And a good example is community housing, trying to get vertical farming in community housing with a view to avoiding someone having to traipse 10 to 12 miles for an allotment, which is something we're looking at doing with a house builder. They're all looking at making novel ways to engage with the consumer to make things happen on their own behalf.
Yeah.
What else have we got, Beanish? What else do you think we can talk about briefly? We've got about 5 minutes.
Yeah. So for me, I think for general people, for example, general public, so the idea is you can grow your own coriander, leafy greens, any like basil in your kitchen. So that is our end goal. So then the way you grow lettuce, basil, or any herbs, but without without damaging the environment. So basically, this is what we are now working with multiple consumers. So we are giving our gel substrate to them, and they can grow for 1 week supply, for example. So it took, obviously, we are still behind, but usually it takes 15 to 21 days to grow their own herbs. So basically when they grow, so for example, if you are cooking something, so you can just literally take it from your kitchen instead of going to retail sector, to go to the supermarket and to grab your any herbs or anything. So for us, this is what another...
The other thing to bear in mind as well is that we have been trialing all of these things at the Stockbridge Technical Centre in York, and our yields are phenomenal, and our germination is in the high 90%. So we have proof that what we've got as a gel works really well in all of those media.
Yeah. So for us, I mean, what we are doing, so we just don't want to stick with one type of grower. So for us, because if we want to achieve net zero target, and if we want to make agriculture more sustainable, then we need to work with everyone. So from general public to farmers, traditional farmer, to indoor farmers. So this is what our company mission is. So at the moment, we are working with every stakeholder. So it's to make, so that we can make agriculture more sustainable.
So the message is really taking knowledge of individual componentry parts of a polymer and adding it in a very clever way, which this lady's done, we can actually create something which is going to change the way that some of the farming is done in the world today, enhance the water supply, stop the runoff of nitrates and phosphates into the water courses, and actually generate a much more sustainable, less food miles marketplace, which is what everyone wants.
Yes. So this is the same message for all of. So my message is also for everyone. So everyone need to consider when they are consuming leafy greens, vegetables, or anything. Just don't think we are doing something good for society. We can basically lots of time what we think if we it's healthy for us, but we need to think how it is grown when it comes to your plate. So is it whether it how many, so this is another term I will say, what was the life cycle assessment of lettuce, what was the life cycle assessment of tomatoes. So although it is healthy for your body, but is it healthy for planet? So that is something I want everyone to consider. So that was the same agenda for myself, AH, to make sure that when we eat tomatoes, it's not only healthy for our body, but it's also healthy for our planet. So then we can save the future generation.
So we all look at food that we buy in whatever retailer we do, and it says these mushrooms have come from Poland. Well, should they really be coming from Poland when we've got the infrastructure to do it in the UK? Probably not. Should your tomatoes be coming from Spain and Portugal? No. Your leafy greens in December should be coming from the United Kingdom, not from Faro and places like that. So the message is using science in a very clever, novel way to create a massive difference in the marketplace for meeting a need in the farming community today.
Yeah. So same for me. Like it's just like, for example, myself, whenever I buy something, I just consider what are the, like how it was grown. So for everyone, it's the same message to make sure that if there is any product, for example, for farmers, if there is any product that is more sustainable, try to use the sustainable product rather than going with traditional substrate or traditional way of growing. And then the only way we can achieve this is if everyone think like sustainability is a key to save the planet. And the science is the only way we can achieve the goal.
So I think that wraps up because we're overrunning now. But thank you very much for listening to us. It's all about sustainability. It's all about reducing food miles. It's all about retaining the scarce resource of water and using it in the best way we possibly can, and to stop ingress of phosphates and nitrates into the water courses, which is a big issue, and certainly in the UK and elsewhere in the world too. But thank you for listening, and thank you for Innovate for actually making this thing happen to us to begin with.
Thank you. Thanks to all.